something different. I'm going to... That's me on the far left there, by the way. Huh. Last family photo before everyone started dying, etc. Okay, different sort of book today. I want to look at this interesting, because this channel isn't just about the collection of books, it's about the collection of the written word, and so this is actually quite heavy. Also, I've always thought that I might make this into a book, but now I'm like, you know what, I should sell this to someone else that can make it into a book. It's a really amazing collection. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't sell it. I just need money right now. That's why I'm thinking that way. But back in 2001, I was at the Possum Trot, a barbecue joint in Seal, Alabama. And I believe the writer of these letters, no, the person who these letters were written to, hey squirrel, Doug Bush, he had just died and all his estate was being auctioned off. So I had a little money on me, and so I bought all the letters that had been written to this guy. But what was so fascinating and amazing was the story these letters told. Honestly, when I think of like great novels that I read, maybe I can't sell these. I don't know. Someone make an offer. Sliding scale offer. Got bills to pay. And I'll consider it. I sold a stack of 4 books for a nice amount to somebody via PayPal. It's the only thing I've ever sold from this channel. And that was awesome, and that guy was super cool. And he was a scholar of the person who had annotated those books. Was writing something of his own, probably still is. I'm excited to read that someday. Look up the Carlos Allende video. If you go way back, there's 250 videos on this channel now. That's crazy. Yes, some of them are very short ones about the cats and I having a book club. But I bet there's like 100 hours of content on this channel. What even is content? But I suppose, like this box full of letters, it all adds up, you know? In the case of these letters, I feel like one of the great American novels I've ever read are the letters of Doug Bush. And they're not really by him, generally. There might be 1 or 2 by him that have snuck in here. They're mostly to him, but he was a traveling salesman in the 70s. And he was Catholic. And he would advertise in all these Christian magazines, and his whole thing was honesty, looking for an honest woman. But he had so many women in his life that he was leading on at the same time and sleeping with. And yeah, sometimes the letters get a little racy. What is so tragic about this box, though, is there is one... These used to be in packets. Looks like the packets have fallen apart. Well, it really does. What? I don't remember taking them all apart. But I had divided them into packets by date, and with my friends that I was walking across the country with back in 2001. That crowd right there. We had been staying with renowned folk artist Butch Anthony in this crazy town in Alabama that was just amazing. They had like discovered folk art, and it had lifted up these poor towns there. I can see one of the main towns was Poorhouse Road. It was a very poor area. Not main towns, main roads. But so this guy had all these relationships, and sometimes he had kids with them, and it was, wow. And there's heartbreaking letters from his kids to him being like, Daddy, we love you. Why are you acting like this? You know, you don't have to be like that. Squirrels read them. Feel free to chime in if you have any insights, squirrel. And really powerful figures emerge. Some of these women are very interesting. There is racism and bigotry and all sorts of stuff woven throughout. It's quite salacious at times. And Doug Bush really was, comes across as a cad sometimes. I would say generally, but also he must have been pretty charming. There's a gap between those books, and the squirrel was looking in there. Can I get in there? There you go, squirrel. Explore. Okay, she's off. Now I'm getting out. Do you need help getting out, squirrel? talking about? Talking about selling these? I can't sell these. It would have to be a good offer. This could make an incredible book someday. It really could. There's photos in some of the letters. But tragically, when I divided this up into packets in 2001, I sent all of the packets but one, the first one, in a box home and kept the first one because I was going to read through it all in order and take notes, which I eventually did. But anyway, I was sitting by a creek reading and I fell asleep and somebody pulled over and stole my backpack. And that first packet of letters was in that pack. So that sucks. So like the introductions to a lot of these characters are now missing. These nonfiction figures. It begins a little more in media res. And there's a lot of letters here. Truman Capote really, that's funny. The nonfiction novel is a great creation. And I've always felt like the potential of it has never been fully realized. Because everyone thinks the nonfiction novel just means true crime. Why couldn't this be a nonfiction novel, Just write up these letters, quote heavily. Squirrel flavored seed. She's still as playful as a kitten sometimes. Squirrel. Kenna versus Sue. Oh yeah, you start to pick up storylines. Some of these women turn against each other as they become aware of each other. I can't remember all the details now, but I used to have a really good grasp of saga. Yeah, no, I think I would want a small chunk of change to part of these. Home enclosed. Away from home. Away from home, away from home, cold and tired and all alone. Lord, I'm 700 miles away from home. Well, I'll never have to pack. Just throw it in the back. Lord, I'm 700 miles away from home. Teardrops fell on my darling's note as I read the words he wrote. He said, I miss you, honey. Come on home. I'll never have to pack. Just throw it in the back. Lord, I'm 700 miles away from home. Love forever, your wife, Sue. That could be put to music. Yeah, Phoenix City, Alabama. Well, this takes place around there. I mean, isn't that pretty good? No, I can't sell these. That's why I wanted to do this video, but I feel like no. These things came into my life. Okay, for a bunch of money. I'm torn like Natalie Imbruglia. Photo inside, do not bend. Look at this bit of 70s ephemera in there. To Doug, a belated Valentine. Sincerely, Ruby Lee. A Valentine is someone like you like to have near. This is a book. Someone to share things with, like drinking an ice cream soda, or reading a favorite story, or growing freckles in the sun. What if I was just quietly sobbing by the end of this? A Valentine is someone who makes good times even better, who cheers you up when you're sad, who's always around when you need a friend, who likes you just the way you are, false and all. This is long. I thought I was getting a Valentine card. I'm reading someone's thesis here. Valentine is someone who's nice to remember, someone you like ever so much. Let's be Valentines. Hey, that's cool. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Wasn't he an alright guy? He said a lot of quotable things. One's mind, once stretched to new dimensions, will never again retain its original form. But he was also was he a Supreme Court justice? They're never morally all pure, Whoa, I was 1 month from birth when this was sent. Russellville, Arkansas. Yeah, see, he was a traveling salesman. Traveling man. Opelika. I will always associate Opelika with a massive rainstorm. When our hike walked through there, it was raining. And we were looking for any place to crash. And this guy named Chris Money, who was a lawyer, was like, you can crash in my law office. Super cool guy. I will always remember him fondly for that. I also remember being in a cafe there and watching a news story about us on a boxy TV mounted overhead, and how cool that was. These towns we were in Alabama were so interesting because this old man had been plowing in his field and he found a turnip that had what looked like a human face on it, and he drew a picture of it and put it in the picture in the window of the local hardware store. Somebody saw it and said, "What delightful folk art," and bought it. And then suddenly he and the whole town realized, oh, we could just be making art and like be known for just making the kind of art that looks like our self-expression. And now the famous artist Butch Anthony is from there. A lot of people have had really successful careers out of there. There's a folk art museum in Pittsview, Alabama, right there. And we were in Seal, where Butch Anthony's property was. Homes he built himself. He showed us the blueprint, and it was just like a drawing of the house. It's crazy. Folk art homes. But inside were like, humanoid figures made of computer parts. And outside were dinosaurs made of tractor parts covering the roof and so on. Amazing. Really inspirational figure, Butch Anthony. But yeah, he owned the Possum Trot, which was nearby, this barbecue joint that did events, and that's where this auction happened and where I originally bought these letters in 2001. Long ago, I sent a big full-color photocopied selection of photos and images and excerpts from those letters to Found Magazine, thinking they could do like a special section. But I don't think he ever used it or printed it. If he did, it was after I stopped following closely, because just life, But one time I brought the whole box to a live Found event at the Guild Cinema here in Albuquerque. He does these tours with Found Magazine. And it was an audience hit. And there was a photograph of me on the stage that was used in like a local story on it. Like the college newspaper. The Daily Lobo. Pretty sure that's where it was. But it's kind of an amazing find. I feel like, whoa, how fortunate I was to be sitting there at that exact moment. It's a lot of letters, hundreds. So I've been working on this 2-volume maximalist autobiography for 15 years now, and I'll finish book 1 of it this year. I just need to do 7 more interviews for this one oral history chapter, because all the chapters have different forms. And write some front and back matter, and it's that. But one chapter, the longest chapter, is a 500-page modified miniseries script in Courier New 12-point font, screenplay style. It is a screenplay for a miniseries. It could totally be used as one. It's ready to go. There's also a series Bible for it that I wrote that goes with it. I have a few videos on this memoir, and I still need to finish talking about it because I was going chapter by chapter, and still have a few chapters left of book 1 to talk about these days. Exterior, Possum Trot Restaurant and Hall, Seal, Alabama, night. So anyway, yeah, this chapter is in the form of a script, and it has, so anyway. Exterior, Possum Trot Restaurant and Hall, Seal, Alabama, night. The hikers arrive in the hearse at a picturesque barbecue restaurant. It's ample signage and art, all Butch Anthony's. Oh yeah, Butch Anthony drove this crazy hearse. Oh, I should, yeah, that's a great part. It's ample signage and art, all Butch Anthony's. Cars, and on every license plate, stars fell on Alabama. Interior, Possum Trot, night. The hikers in a crowd sit on wooden benches, beholding. On a wall, a hand-painted sign by Butch about hot goobers. An auctioneer in a big hat speaks into a corded microphone. Auctioneer. And again, we are bidding on a box of the letters of Doug Bush. Years of letters, private letters. Who knows what all? Do I hear 5? Mike raises a hand, tentatively but eagerly. Soon, excited. Auctioneer. 5 from the young man. Then we go to the Folk Art Museum. Exterior, Alabama roadside day. The hikers walk along a rural road in tall, tick-laden grass. Butch Anthony drives by in his folk art hearse, slowing. Butch Anthony, y'all take care. It's been a pleasure. Read those letters. The hikers wave, shout, and holler as Butch drives away. Exterior, small-town Alabama motel, day, establishing. Interior, second-story motel room, day. The hikers have completely taken over a 2-bed motel room with gear and clothing hanging up drying all around them. Mike, Jeff, and Ray sit cross-legged on a bed, sorting through piles of a 1970s Christian salesman's letters. Inky paper scraps state various years, 1977, 1978, 1979. And next to every dated scrap, a pile of yellowed letters. Mike, Ray, and Jeff singing cheerfully to a David Letterman jingle. Letters, we've got stacks and stacks of letters, letters. John, Dakota, and Kim sit on a second bed reading letters. A muted TV, April 2001 Alabama news. A dog poisoner? A pot bust? John, this guy would place ads in Christian singles magazines going on about how honest he was, and then he would drive all around the South as a traveling salesman banging all the women who wrote, as if everyone was the only one. Kim, almost all of these are to him. All the hikers exclaim and wonder at these many clues of these long-lost lives. Like, what a story is hidden here. Here's when I lost that first pack of those letters.
Exterior trail road crossroads, Woody Gap, Georgia, day. Mike, hiking alone, stands at a shady trailside crossroads, beholding a pleasant roadside creek and waterfall. These falls by a short dirt path down below the level of the road. Mike drops his pack near the road, looks around, and sees no one at all, no humans, no cars. A quiet Georgia countryside. Mike extracts an antique bright red Robert Louis Stevenson book from his pack with a water bottle. He handles, but leaves in the top pouch, another book, Salvation on Sand Mountain. The cover showing a snake handling church, and a sealed Ziploc bag full of those rubber-banded 1970s letters.
There's a scrap of one of the labels in the packets. What happened here? Doug Bush's son was here rifling through my stuff in the middle of the night looking for that piece of information. Wild comment and card during marriage, no wedding band. It happened the first instant we met. Crack. Split. Rumble. Quake. And I've been completely screwed up ever since. What kind of a card? Just the card itself. It's kind of amazing. 1979. They were all preparing for my birth as the prophecies had foretold. Oh, here's the comment. P.S. Noticed in the picture you sent you didn't have on your wedding band. I've been completely screwed up ever since. Love, Sue. I think Sue's kind of a sad figure in these a little bit. All the women are interesting, though. They're like, my dearest got out of the hospital yesterday about 2 a.m. Sure felt good, too. I finally got the card and the money today. It had gone to somewhere in Florida. Wrong zip code on it. Hey, the picture was super. One hunk of my man sure looks good. Bet Jessie would mess her pants if she saw it. Oh, she said, open up for Here I Come when I showed her the other pictures of you. I didn't get to mail you a letter yesterday. Scary about that. Sorry about that. Forgive me this time, okay? And then that P.S. Love your wife, Sue. Yeah, they were married. There's a whole story here, and I'm not doing it justice because it's not fresh in my mind, but simple code. I love you with all my heart. Take me home, country roads, to sweet home, Alabama. Envelope ephemera. Most ephemeral ephemera. Bicentennial era stamp. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land. Phoenix City. That might be a good title if you write about this, or if I wrote about this. Well, that's a bummer. That was a lot of work sorting all these letters. Now they're running free. Everything here is interesting. There's just so much. Is it voyeuristic? Sure. But, we go to literature to experience more than one life, And sure, you all might say, this isn't literature. This is some guy's private letters from his life. Well, they were put up for auction at his estate, so... that was a choice. His family must have thought, it's fine. Let him live on in whatever way. But, that essentially made him a public figure. It'd be a fascinating book to really do a deep dive and research. Find his old ads in those Christian Singles magazines. There's got to be archives somewhere. But not always. It's amazing how much ephemera just is lost. One time in my old house, we found an old collared shirt from the 50s behind this built-in drawer in the hallway. And it had a tag that was nowhere on the internet. It was just some little company that made shirts. Someday this miniseries will get made. It's pretty eventful. I wrote it in micro scenes so I could hew really closely to memory. I wanted it to be literally a nonfiction script. Nonfiction as any memoir is what I was telling myself. Because you really do, dialogue is certainly an act of creation when you're recreating it from memory. Did I read the end of this? I can't remember. Adjacent roadside creek and falls. Mike lies on the ground, reading, shaking his head in smiley appreciation, occasionally slugging water like it's vodka. In the semi-distant oral background, a creaking rumble, an idle. Mike reads the book at length, the pages advancing a blur. He drops his book, deep asleep, soon napping on the ground. Roadside again. Mike scurries around, twitchy, frantic, craning wildly, his eyes scanning the ground in apparent disbelief and distress. Mike continued, my pack. Doug Bush's earliest letters.
My notebooks, my books, and like all my gear. Maybe I read that twice. But these letters have been a real presence in my life. I've kept them in a box for 20 years now. That's crazy. 24 years. Get them out occasionally, like I said. Took them to that Found Live event. Read through them all once. Wrote something up that I sent to Found Magazine. It's probably never published. Read through them again a bit before I wrote the screenplay parts. I think I would only sell these to somebody that wanted to do their own sort of literary or documentary project with this. Because this shouldn't just be in obscurity. It's too interesting. It's an American tale without the mice. All right. Stuck inside a mobile with the Memphis Blues again. But yeah, it's like a saga, like something I got to discover. I'm always saying you should read more than just books, and I think this is partly what I'm talking about. The weird things in life. But this should be a book. It should be distilled into a book. Yeah, so if anyone out there has a bit of cash, wants to help with rent and bills, these could be yours. But you also have to have the intent of doing something really cool with them. And it can't just be like, I'll pulp them up and write a poem on a piece of paper I make. No, not that kind of art. I made a mask and did an interpretive dance. No. First, this stuff needs told in a sort of Tolstoyan way. It would make for a good nonfiction novel, even with that first packet missing. That's so sad. I'll never forget that day in that motel, all of us sorting the letters out and just kind of getting an idea of what was there, and it was really festive. And then I think it was that night that we went and saw Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Oh Brother Where Art Thou, a very interesting double feature. Not then, not long after, but it's all one night in my mind. Well, I need to go eat. I need to clean up and do some dishes and home maintenance. There's a million things I need to do. I should do some of them at least. That's a good attitude. This book's leaving the paperback project. I still have 3 Sinclair Lewis's. It's just not pretty enough to stick around. And reading about it on the back, it doesn't sound like it's super essential to know Sinclair Lewis. I mean, I will read. I'll get a better copy of it. But just whenever you get a new paperback, you've got to refigure the shelves, and it had gotten a little crowded. This one's a new edition from the 80s, Falling in Place. Calls it one critic calls it a catcher in the rye for the 80s. Reading those. Rereading The Secret Share. Finishing this. For new viewers to the channel, the paperback project is just reading this whole literary fiction case over a few years. The lion herself and the panther. Now scroll down. Hey, Prisma. Yeah, I guess my owning this even asks some questions about nonfiction. When is it okay to consider something as a literature? Some literature just for a very small few. I really love this biography of Conrad Richter. And I once got to show this biographer around the old Cedar Crest resort where Richter had stayed when his wife had tuberculosis, which I'm kind of a historian of. This guy read this guy, David R. Johnson, he read all 15,000 pages of the writer Conrad Richter's journals, unpublished in cursive, and he said it was like reading the most attenuated novel you could possibly imagine. But yeah, he compared it to a novel. That's how I feel about these letters. In fact, an edited version of these letters might just be the book. Put some significant front and back matter on that project. But the letters might be the core of it. Just type it up. Streamline, that's like the most interesting parts from each one, maybe. And the most interesting ones. Maybe in sections so you could have some commentary throughout. You could make an effort to track down real figures, etc., etc. But I think if I did that at all, I would do it toward the end of the project and really make the letters the key of the thing for a long while. I need to get a frame for that picture of Marcy. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Hey, here's a vintage 70s Father's Day card. I'm the other woman in your life. I'm the other woman, Cindy. Ha, ha, ha. Dark joke. Okay, I'm getting a call. Take care, everyone.
buy these if you want, if you're rich, or just have some extra money. And yeah, take care.